Welcome to another change-making conversation from Baptist News Global. You're listening to a special podcast series titled Highest Power, Church and State, featuring writer, poet, and musician Rick Pidcock. Now here's Rick.
The Pope is dead.
The throne is vacant.
What happened?
They say a heart attack.
You know how rumor spreads, and 1.25 billion souls watching.
Well Cardinal Lawrence.
It seems the responsibility for the conclave falls upon you. The supervision of this election is a duty I never thought I'd have to perform. They are sequestered, and they must be shielded from all news that may influence their judgment. You understand?
No sane man would want the papacy. The men who are dangerous are the ones who do want it.
It was one of the most nominated films of the year with 8 Oscar nominations, including nominations for Best Motion Picture, Best Actor, Best Actress, and Best Adapted Screenplay. But in addition to being a quite compelling movie, it was also timely. Conclave opens up with the death of the Pope. Then it follows the drama of what happens behind closed doors as the cardinals of the Catholic Church sequester in order to select the next Pope. So after Pope Francis died on April 21st, home viewership of the film tripled. And it wasn't just American pop culture driving the views. According to Political, quote, "As crazy as it might sound, some of the 133 high-ranking clerics set to enter the Sistine Chapel when the conclave starts on Wednesday have looked to the Ralph Fiennes movie, handily titled just Conclave, for pointers. Some have watched it in the cinema," a cleric involved in the real thing admitted to Politico, unquote. And not only was Conclave watched by some of the cardinals involved in the meetings, but it was even viewed by Pope Leo XIV himself. Here's his brother telling NBC News about it.
And you said you spoke to him right before Conclave?
Mm-hmm.
Tell me what that conversation was like.
Really? First we do Wordle, because this is a regular thing, okay? Then we do Words with Friends. It's something to keep his mind off life in the real world. And then we talk about what's going on, and I said, well, do you have your red socks? That doesn't go over well all the time. And then just that kind of stuff, and I said, well, are you ready for this? I said, did you watch the movie Conclave so you know how to behave? And he had just finished watching the movie Conclave. So he knew how to behave. So it's that kind of stuff, because I wanted to take his mind off of it, you know, and laugh about something, because this is now an awesome responsibility.
As Politico points out, just like the movie, the conclave following the death of Pope Francis was preceded by political power plays as well. There were anonymous leaks from rivals, allegations of abuse, and a letter from Pope Francis was released about another cardinal being connected with financial fraud. The soundbite from the movie trailer that we opened up this episode with shows one of the characters saying, "The men who are dangerous are the ones who do want it." And that opens up a rather interesting question. Given today's dynamics in the church and the state, what makes a dangerous pope? Laura Loomer said on social media, "This is the new pope. His name is Robert Prevost. He is the first American pope. He is anti-Trump, anti-MAGA, pro-open borders, and a total Marxist like Pope Francis. Catholics don't have anything good to look forward to. Just another Marxist puppet in the Vatican." Worship leader Sean Foyt added, "Follow Jesus. Don't follow a woke Marxist, globalist, and progressive new pope." And here's border czar Tom Homan.
Well, let me give a message to the Pope guy. I'm a lifelong Catholic. I was born Catholic. I've been through Catholic doctrine. Look, he ought to concentrate on fixing the Catholic Church, first of all. He's got big problems there. And in the Vatican, they have a wall around the Vatican. If you illegally enter the Vatican, the crime is serious. You'll be charged with a serious crime, be jailed.
Yeah.
So he can protect the Vatican where he lives. He can build a wall where he lives. Where American people are not allowed that? No. Securing the border saved lives. He needs to understand that when we secure the border, when less people come, less women get raped by the cartel, less children die in the river, less Americans die from fentanyl overdoses. He ought to stick to the Catholic Church and fix that. That's a mess.
So is Pope Leo XIV woke? And is that even a bad thing? Perhaps the most widely cited evidence people have put forward to demonstrate that he is, quote, anti-Trump, anti-MAGA, and pro-open borders was when, prior to becoming Pope, Robert Prevost posted a story on X and quoted the headline, "J.D. Vance is wrong. Jesus doesn't ask us to rank our love for others." But there's more. He also posted, quote, Pope Francis' letter, J.D. Vance's Ordo Amoris, and what the gospel asks all of us on immigration. And he also reposted another writer calling Kilmar Abrego Garcia's deportation to a Salvadoran prison illicit, and asking, do you not see the suffering? Is your conscience not disturbed? How can you stay quiet? He criticized Trump's family separation policy in 2018. In 2017, he favored allowing immigrants who were brought to the United States illegally by their parents to stay. And in 2015, he posted an article titled, Why Donald Trump's Anti-Immigrant Rhetoric is So Problematic. He also posted in favor of, quote, increased access to mental health care and stronger, sensible gun control laws, unquote. And for those who are paying attention to his first public comments after being named Pope, he said, quote, we have to be a church that works together to build bridges and to keep our arms open, unquote. Those words, build bridges, were the very words that Pope Francis used that riled up Trump during his first term, due to Francis' opposition to Trump's rhetoric against immigrants and to his talk about building a wall. I covered this during our two-part series, The Pope and the President, a couple weeks ago. So sure, Pope Leo XIV appears to have concerns and perhaps some strong convictions against Trump's immigration and gun control policies. But does that mean he's pro-open borders and a total Marxist like Pope Francis? Or that Catholics don't have anything good to look forward to because he's just another Marxist puppet in the Vatican, as Laura Loomer says? What does he say about abortion or LGBTQ people? Here's Pope Leo XIV in his own words.
Western mass media is extraordinarily effective in fostering within the general public enormous sympathy for beliefs and practices that are at odds with the gospel. For example, abortion, homosexual lifestyle, euthanasia. Religion is at best tolerated by mass media as tame and quaint when it does not actively oppose positions on ethical issues that the media have embraced as their own. However, when religious voices are raised in opposition to these positions, mass media can target religion, labeling it as ideological and insensitive in regard to the so-called vital needs of people in the contemporary world. The sympathy for anti-Christian lifestyle choices that mass media fosters is so brilliantly and artfully ingrained in the viewing public that when people hear the Christian message, it often inevitably seems ideological and emotionally cruel by contrast to the ostensible humaneness of the anti-Christian perspective.
So he says the homosexual lifestyle is at odds with the gospel and is an anti-Christian lifestyle choice. And he's against abortion. And also, like Trump, he seems to have some strong feelings against the media. When he was a bishop in Peru, he told a local news station, quote, the promotion of gender ideology is confusing because it seeks to create genders that don't exist. And if he's simply a woke Marxist puppet like Pope Francis supposedly was, don't forget what Pope Francis said about the possibility of women becoming deacons. Francis said, quote, women are of great service as women, not as ministers, unquote. If a John MacArthur, an Albert Mohler, or a Josh Howerton said something like that, we'd be all over them, and rightly so. But when the Pope says it, we pretend like they're progressive. When Pope Leo XIV was asked about ordaining women, he said, you, quote, can't change 2,000 years of tradition. He also added, quote, clericalizing women doesn't necessarily solve a problem, it might make a new problem. And regarding his views on immigration, his position isn't quite as anti-Trump as MAGA would have us believe. He actually agrees with Trump that there is a problem today with mass immigration.
Both the first reading and the gospel make very clear a message which Pope Francis has been hammering home time and again since his very first trip as Pope, when he went to this little community, an island in southern Italy, the town of Lampedusa, where all these immigrants continue to come. It's a huge problem, and it's a problem worldwide, not only in this country. There's got to be a way both to solve the problem, but also to treat people with respect. Every one of us, whether we were born in the United States of America or on the North Pole, we all are given that gift of being created in the image and likeness of God. And the day we forget that is the day we forget who we are. We forget who Christ has called us to be.
So the Pope agrees with Trump that there is a huge problem with immigrants going to other countries. He simply wants these immigrants to be treated with respect. So what can MAGA possibly have against what he said? MAGA agrees with him that there's a huge problem. MAGA agrees with him that there has to be a way to solve it. The only place of possible disagreement here is regarding what he says about treating immigrants with respect. And if you look at the actions of the Trump administration and the silence or celebration of MAGA, they're not at all concerned about treating immigrants with respect. They think that because immigrants have broken a law, it allows MAGA, the Trump administration, and ICE to treat them horribly. If you follow me on social media, you may have noticed how often I critique white evangelical theologies of justice, specifically regarding the crucifixion and eternal conscious torment. And the reason why is that their theology of justice forms them to be desensitized to violence against their neighbors, and to celebrate violence against their neighbors as justice. When evangelicals are theologically primed to celebrate justice as the crucifixion and eternal conscious torment of human bodies, and are warned not to have empathy, any concerns we raise about the injustices of the Trump administration's actions against immigrants aren't even going to register with their humanity. Thankfully, Pope Leo XIV, like Francis before him, does not share the same penchant for retributive justice. On another note, one thing that needs to be cleared up is Pope Leo's politics. There have been some posts going around with images claiming he is a registered Republican, but you don't actually register a party in Illinois. So any certainty about his party affiliation is a bit of an overreach. But given that he's voted in Republican primaries repeatedly, while not voting in a Democratic primary since 2010, one might wonder if he's more comfortable in the GOP. And that makes sense given his views of abortion, of women, and of LGBTQ people. Now there's another elephant in the room here when it comes to Pope Leo XIV: connections to the sexual abuse scandal. When he was the provincial of the Augustinians, he reportedly allowed a priest who had allegations abusing minors attached to him to live in the friary close to a Catholic elementary school. And in 2022, when he was the bishop in Peru, 3 different people reported to the local authorities that there had been allegations of abuse that were not being addressed by the leaders. So what do we make of all this? On one hand, he's spoken out against Trump and J.D. Vance regarding their immigration policies and has talked about building bridges and respecting immigrants. He's promoted common-sense gun reform. He appears to care about the environment, and he seems to connect well with the poor. But on the other hand, he's very unaffirming of LGBTQ people, highly opposed to women being ordained. He's concerned about gender ideology, like Trump. He appears to have a lot of basic concerns that Trump and MAGA have, and is connected to potential sexual abuse cover-ups in multiple locations. Reaction from both the left and the right has been strong. And I think what's going on here is that both the left and the right are grasping for anything they can find to give them hope. Those on the right are grasping at any hint of basic human decency in order to prove he's a dangerous woke Marxist. And many on the left are grasping at any hint of basic human decency in hopes that maybe there's someone with real political or religious power today who's not given over to sexist, racist, homophobic ideology. The reality is that likely neither of those hopes are true. Given his conservative views about women and LGBTQ people and gender, he's neither woke nor progressive. It's more complicated than that. So he's more likely going to be a bit of a mixed bag for us. At times, he'll reflect the impulses of wholeness and liberation many of us on the left long for. At other times, he'll promote the heteronormative male-dominated hierarchies that cause so much dehumanization and exile in the world. The question the rest of us need to reflect on is this: what is it about his actions that resonate with us? If we resonate with his embrace of wholeness and common humanity, what does that say about us? And if we resonate with his embrace of heteronormative male hierarchy, what does that say about us? That's it for today. Thank you for listening. Please like, subscribe, and rate us on your favorite podcast platform, and we'll be back with another episode on Thursday.
This has been another change-making conversation from Baptist News Global. The episode you've just heard is part of a special podcast series titled Highest Power, Church and State. Be sure to follow BNG daily at baptistnews.com and subscribe to get notifications about future episodes. Baptist News Global is a national nonprofit news service that is independent, free, and faithful. BNG is supported by readers and listeners like you. Learn more at baptistnews.com.